Today's news, Sam Okyeri opens up about the racism he faced in Korea, plus his nickname, Black Young.
A gentleman from the African country of Ghana named Sam Okyeri, who now resides in South Korea, has made a bit of a name for himself and is now a TV personality there. He went on a TV show called As I Say and talked about his experience living in South Korea, residing there, and his bouts with racism. This is a very sensitive topic for both of us to talk about. I suggest you watch to the end. We are going to talk specifically about what he said on the TV show, as well as some of our experience and just our reaction to what he dealt with. I want to start with one of his statements from the TV program itself. When I tell people that I'm from Africa, I get a lot of startling questions like, do you grow a lion at your house? I get it so often that I now just respond by saying that my father has 2 lions. That's how much Koreans are unknowledgeable about black people and Africa. First off, I don't think Koreans are any more or less knowledgeable about Africa than Americans.
I don't know about that, but I do know that from a very young age, and this is because I taught at a Hagwon, from a very young age, when you are learning about Africa, you're learning stereotypes, and very broad, basic stereotypes that, yes, do tend to be a little bit racist.
Are you talking about over in Korea you learned about stereotypes, or you're talking about around the world, American education included?
Around the world. Because I know teaching in Korea, there were definitely those stereotypes of people dressed up in costume and animals and things like that that were stereotypical African safari kind of things when we were teaching English. And I also know that growing up, for me, if I hadn't met people who lived in Africa, because I did, going to my church, I met missionaries who lived in Africa. Because I had that experience, I felt like I knew a lot more about Africa than most people.
On to another statement he made on the TV program. I tried to sit in an empty seat and an Ajima took the seat, outrightly discriminating against me by saying, "What is a black thing doing here in Korea? Go back to your country." What hurt more was that the other Korean people just sat there and watched. It made me wonder if Koreans just watch foreigners without helping them in difficult situations. I am sorry, I've seen this situation so many times in my life from living over there.
I was thinking that too. It doesn't matter so much if you're black, if you're anything but Korean. First off, Ajima always gets the seat. Right. Ajima always gets the seat. If you're on the bus, if you're on the train, if there's an older Ajima there, she gets the seat. You stand up, you give her the seat. To me, it was always a respectful thing, especially because for me, I realized that I was the foreigner in their country and I was representing my country over there. When they saw me, I'm not Korean, so they're thinking about these stereotypes, and your presence there helps to shape their view, their worldview.
Half the time, Ajuma's less than 5 foot tall. She's had a hard life. You let her sit down. She'll push you out of the way for the seat. It's just sort of accepted over there. They're not all like that, but little Ajima always does. I don't think these statements, at least to me, are at all startling. I am glad that he went on the TV program and talked about these things, even a little bit. I'm sure he has thousands of examples that he could share, and he only has a 30-minute time slot or a 22-minute time slot to talk about these things. They're sound bites. He can only get a couple stories in, and that's it. His experience over there, even as a black person, is probably way better than most other people's, if I had to guess. Only simply because when you're famous, you get treated better, period. If you go on and search his name onto Google, he's got all sorts of different images up there, and he's probably getting paid better. He's invited on TV programs. He gets to speak his mind. He gets to explain his situation there. That's more than 99% of people that go over and live in South Korea. I'm not saying he doesn't face racism. Every single one of us face racism. If you're a non-Korean ethnicity or don't have Korean citizenship, you are going to face racism over there at some point. And talk about racism from our own personal perspective, or at least my perspective and experience from having lived in Korea. I do not think that Koreans are any more racist than Americans are. I think, for instance, if you are a white person in America, it's very similar to being a Korean in Korea. That's the dominant culture still. Of course, Koreans are going to look at people who are not Korean with some sort of other thinking other than what they would expect from a Korean. Whatever that thinking is, I'm not saying people are racist. I'm just saying we all sort of do this where we can't identify with what we're seeing, and so therefore we have other thoughts about it. Whether it's racist thoughts or mild racist thoughts or just I don't know what to think about that person's thoughts, or that person's not like me and they're not fitting into our culture. I think they're not fitting in, or oh, they're not following this particular Korean tradition or culture. These are just things that we all are going to have to learn to deal with as we further our development as humans, or as we just all learn to accept each other.
Another thing that I was thinking about is Koreans have this blatant honesty that they use in regular conversations and everyday interactions.
In some cases.
Well, like, for example, if you're going shopping, they'll tell you exactly what size you fit. You know, when it comes to finding jobs, they'll say, oh, we don't want anybody who's old, we don't want anybody who's, in some cases I've seen, they only want women, they only want white people, they only want, you know, you can't look Asian or you can't be black. And that's something that is illegal here, but they are able to do it over there.
We made a video about this before, a couple years ago when we were still living in Korea. You took a lot of flack in that video because you and I were just discussing what it's like there. And all I want for anyone is to have a good experience in life. I was born white. I'm actually very, very mixed European ethnicity. I try to treat everybody fairly. I mean, for me, the bigger problem in America, for instance, is not that we're all treating each other in racist ways. It's that there's this income inequality that's actually way more severe at this point, I think. But this is what I think. There's people who are black who are like, no, you know what? The income inequality is not the bigger deal. The bigger deal is we're still incarcerating our black people by and large more because of these shitty drug laws that they stuck in the 1970s. I mean, there's so many ways that you can look at the problems in our society, in our local society, in our national society, in our international world society. In Korea, if you're not Korean, you're going to face some sort of discrimination by and large, period. The laws are written that way. They're written to favor Koreans. And so therefore, in their mind, just by law, they're going to have this thinking, like I was saying earlier, even if it's super mild, it does discriminate against anyone who's not Korean. So if you're Japanese, if you're Filipino, you're going to feel some sort of racism there. If you're white, if you're black, I mean, I don't know if they're more racist towards black people, if they're more racist towards Latinos. I can't answer that. I can't answer that at all. I can't point to that. And I also can't even talk other than my own experience. And you know what? A lot of times, nobody wanted to sit next to me on the bus in Korea. It happened again and again and again. And I'm white. And I'm whatever. And I'm not 500 pounds. I'm trying to fit in. I was paying my taxes there. I worked. We paid our rent. We did all the law-abiding things that you're supposed to do. And yet, there were a lot of people that were still very uncomfortable being around us or being right next to us. People wouldn't stand next to us in the subway unless the subway was packed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget, there was one time when I first lived there in 2002, this guy opened the newspaper and was like, "Buzz!" And he wouldn't take his elbow off of me, and we were sitting on the subway next to each other, and his elbow was jabbing into my chest. I had just moved there. I didn't know if I should get up and go to another car or if I should just sit there. I mean, I was in disbelief that this was happening. And one of the first things that went through my mind was, why did I move to Korea? But you just deal with these sorts of things, and it has very little to do with your actual skin color, more to do with you're not them. There's so much more that you and I could say here. I do not want to portray that I am thinking negatively at all about Koreans versus other places that might be better to live or better to go and visit or better to just be a particular ethnicity and live in. This is not Korea versus other places. This is simply dialogue that we are trying to express in a way that is informational, in a way that can create more dialogue so we can become more aware of each other and accepting of each other and loving. And I think Koreans are making big strides over there to try and accept anybody that comes over. In a very Asian homogeneous society, it's difficult, especially if you haven't been there, to understand this.
And that's the reason why I'm really glad that he went on national television and talked about his experiences, because this is what it takes to get people to open up their minds and start realizing what's going on and how we can change it.
So comment down below, let us know what you think. Click the like button while you're down there. Thank you so much for supporting us. Click the bell for notifications. Check out the link to K-Gal. And don't forget to subscribe for more Hallyu Back news. That's it. We're out of here. Hasta luego.
Bye.